Hello and welcome to the inaugural episode of the Blue Saints podcast. And you may ask, what is that? Well, it is the official podcast of the St. Paul Police Federation. My name is Mark Ross. I'm the president of the St. Paul Police Federation, which is the union that represents the rank and file officers, sergeants, and commanders of the St. Paul Police Department. I was elected by the membership to serve in this role. I've been a St. Paul police officer for 24 years, and I'm honored to do it. Next to pushing a squad car and answering calls for service, this is the most honorable job I've ever had. In terms of why we're doing this, the reason we're doing it is that oftentimes we're not as effective with our messaging as we'd like to be. And sometimes if I get a call from the media or put a message out, it's not necessarily delivered the way that we want it to be delivered. And this is really the best format to get information to you all so that you have a deep understanding of how the St. Paul Police Federation may feel about a given issue. As this podcast progresses, we plan to have guests from various backgrounds, pro-law enforcement, perhaps anti-law enforcement. But this is really going to serve as the medium for us to deliver messages to you in terms of how we're feeling about things in the city of St. Paul. Any specific law enforcement issues. I will tell you, we're going to stay in our lane, which is public safety in the city of St. Paul. That's what's important to us. And public safety is number one. And the condition of our city is very important to us. Obviously, as a union, our job is to get out and work in the best interests of our members, which as a union is wages, it's benefits, working conditions / safety. And that's primarily the arena that we work in. We are going to focus on decisions that are made at the city level, how they impact the police department, how they impact the police federation, and hopefully answer questions that you may have if you read an article or watch a story and you ask yourself, well, I wonder what the police union thinks about that. Hopefully, what we can achieve through this is to answer those questions and provide a platform for you to easily listen, watch, and get a feel for what St. Paul police officers are feeling about any given issues in the city of St. Paul, specifically the police union. I'm going to provide you with a recent example of something that came out of City Hall that we had no idea about. And this was the council and a debate over the creation of a public safety budget oversight committee. Now, what that means entirely, I don't know. In fact, I'm not even sure the authors of the resolution know. In fact, one council member's response to it was it seems duplicative. So the question is, where did this come from and why? The city council certainly has the ability to pay attention to what we're negotiating and how we negotiate it, and specifically the police budget in terms of what we're spending and why. Now, the reason this came about is because of police overtime. And I can tell you right now, the reason that police overtime is sky high is that we are short about 70 police officers. And over the span of the last 5 years, we've been short anywhere from 100 to 65 or 70 police officers, in that range. So let's say 60 to 100 officers down the last 5 years at any given time. So at any given time, that's at least 10% of our workforce, sometimes upwards of 10% of our workforce that it's no longer here. They're gone. And we're trying to find people to fill those positions. So to the council's surprise, we spend a lot of money on overtime. And actually, it really shouldn't be a surprise because we're short-staffed. And the reality is the police calls don't stop coming in. Police calls keep coming. We have to answer the calls. We have to provide the service. We're happy to do it. It's what we signed up to do. But naturally, as a result of not having enough cops, work a lot of overtime. So how was this brought to my attention? I got a call from a reporter. I had no idea this was even a conversation. The reason I had no idea is because nobody reached out to the police union from City Hall, specifically the council, to ask what maybe the police union's opinion was on the budget and why we're at in terms of overtime. So this was my response to the reporter that called to actually make me aware of this. They wanted my comment, and it was difficult because I hadn't even heard of it. So this was my comment to the reporter. Today is the first we've heard of this, which isn't necessarily surprising. However, I am disappointed that Councilwoman Bowie didn't take the time to discuss any aspect of this with the Police Federation and department leadership. We're all in the dark about what this concept would look like, and it just seems like another layer of unneeded bureaucracy in a city that should be more focused on re-energizing our downtown area. Our contract and overall policing strategy must be fully considered and understood before proposing something like this. Now, again, I'm not entirely certain what the proposal entails and how this is going to work, but I would say I'm a super accessible person, always have been, and I just wish that the councilwoman would have reached out to me and we could have a little discussion about it and maybe provided some context as to why our contract is the way that it is, why we're spending so much money on overtime, why it's so important to spend this money on overtime, and which lends itself to the next question is, well, how do we eliminate all this overtime? And the answer to that is we hire more cops. And to do that, we need to make this one of the most attractive places to be a police officer in the state of Minnesota. One way you do that, obviously, is through wages. So we have to continue to be super competitive as it relates to wages. Another way you do that is supporting your police officers in your police department. People that come to work here, they want to be supported. They want to be supported by the chief. They want to be supported by the mayor. They want to be supported by the city council. And they definitely want to be supported by their union, which I assure you, they're supported by this union. Our cops are out there doing great work. So these are the types of conversations that I think are important for city leaders to have, especially with the police union in the city. All right. This is a labor heavy city. I think over 90% of our workforce is unionized. It's important to reach out to union leadership when you're making budgetary decisions. Those relationships are really important. And I don't want to be overly critical of anybody here. What I want this to focus on is that my door is open and I want to have these discussions. And I'll tell you what, following this, I'm going to reach out to every council member and just let them know that I want to meet with them and have discussions about our budget and be open about it. Because that's how we're going to get something truly accomplished. I think that's how we're going to fill our ranks. We get our police department back up to full strength. And guess what? That overtime goes away because now we're fully staffed. Don't get me wrong, not all overtime is going to go away. Sometimes we have to get in there and roll up our sleeves and put in the extra hours to get this job done. Whatever's necessary to protect the community. But we could eliminate a ton of this overtime, creating an environment where people really want to work and feel valued by city leadership. And that's what we're trying to get. We can all agree public safety is important. At the mayor's most recent State of the City address, he highlighted how important it was to revitalize downtown. There was a survey done downtown, and what all the business owners say and the folks that work down there, they don't feel as safe as they'd like to feel. How do we get there? We do get there through police officers. That's how you get there. That's the proven strategy. You need police officers central to all this because as public safety goes, this city goes. And so our job is to continue to push that because it's important. If people feel safe downtown, we can reinvigorate downtown St. Paul. It is possible, but it really starts with us. And we truly need to be at full staffing levels to go out there and do all the things the community is expecting us to do, especially the business community. I talk to business leaders all the time about how upsetting some of the things they see are and how some of the crimes that don't get charged, some of the things that we're not able to tend to because we're too busy. All these things lend themselves to the importance of having a fully staffed police department that's adequately paid and really feel as though they're valued by the folks at City Hall. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I think I've said enough. So at this point, I'm going to conclude, but I want to thank you for tuning into this, our inaugural episode of the Blue Saints podcast coming out of St. Paul. And by the way, I should tell you the name Blue Saints comes from, obviously, we are the folks in blue, the cops. We're in the saintly city, St. Paul. Our cops are out there doing God's work, which is what saints do. That's how we came up with the name. Hopefully you like it. But please, there's going to be future episodes as information comes out of City Hall, downtown, anything relevant to public safety in St. Paul. And please tune in the future. So thank you very much and be safe.